The movie starts with a small family that seems happy together. The husband, Craig, is a doctor, and his wife, Elise, works as a real estate agent. They take turns caring for their 6-year-old son, Benjamin, because their work schedules are different. One morning, Elise goes to work while Craig stays home to look after Benjamin. Craig invites Benjamin to play ball in the yard. However, when the weather gets hot, Craig goes inside the house to get sunscreen for Benjamin. While Craig is inside, a man in a car nearby watches Benjamin closely. The car slowly moves closer to the yard where Benjamin is playing. Inside the house, Craig searches for the sunscreen in a messy drawer. He has no idea that something terrible is about to happen. When Craig goes back outside, he sees the car speeding away with Benjamin inside. Panicked, Craig runs after the car but cannot keep up. He quickly gets into his car to chase the kidnapper. However, Craig realizes he left his phone at home, so he cannot call the police. Craig decides to keep chasing the car by himself. He stops at an overpass, but the kidnapper's car is gone. Traffic gets busy, and Craig desperately tries to stop other cars to borrow a phone. Meanwhile, Elise comes home from work and is shocked to see the house surrounded by police and reporters. Inside, she sees Craig looking scared and panicked. Before she can ask him anything, a detective asks Elise to sit down and talk about the kidnapping. This only makes Elise more upset, and she screams, asking where her son is. Hours pass, but the police still don't know why Benjamin was kidnapped. Elise wonders why the kidnapper hasn't called to ask for money. She starts to fear that the kidnapping wasn't for ransom, but was done by someone who enjoys hurting others, a psychopath. Meanwhile, Benjamin is locked in a basement room. He screams in fear, calling for his parents. His screams annoy the kidnapper, a man named John Kozlowski. Angry at the noise, John enters the room with the intention to harm Benjamin. Later, 2 police officers, Patterson and Alvarez, visit John's house after neighbors report hearing crying sounds from the basement. When John opens the door, he doesn't let them inside. He claims the sounds are his own because he is feeling depressed. However, Alvarez notices children's clothes inside the house, which makes him suspicious. When the officers ask to search the house, John refuses and demands they bring a warrant. This forces the officers to take stricter action and search the house without John's permission. As they search, the officers find a door to the basement. Inside, they discover old, dirty furniture. Patterson, however, feels something is wrong. He notices bloodstains and tools like drills and hammers covered in blood. Then he opens another door in the basement and is shocked to find Benjamin's lifeless body. At the same time, Elise hears the phone ring at home. When she answers, she learns the devastating news that Benjamin has been found dead. She is so shocked that she collapses. She and Craig rush to the hospital, still hoping the boy isn't their son. However, when they arrive, they are heartbroken to confirm it is indeed Benjamin. In just a few hours, Craig and Elise's happy life is completely destroyed. They are heartbroken and angry, hoping the court will punish the kidnapper, John, as harshly as possible. However, the judge sentences John to only 25 years in prison. This decision leaves Craig and Elise feeling very angry and disappointed. Elise cannot hide her frustration. She asks Craig to help her get a gun, but Craig tells her that killing John will not solve anything. Elise, feeling hopeless, says they have failed as parents and need to do something to honor their son, Benjamin. Days go by, and Craig and Elise are in a terrible mental state. They stop caring about each other and start fighting often, blaming one another for what happened. Eventually, Elise decides to leave Craig for a while to calm down and deal with her emotions. After Elise leaves, Craig falls into deep despair. He feels there is no future for him and their family. He becomes so hopeless that he tries to end his life by injecting himself with something harmful. However, just as he is about to do it, he sees a photo of Benjamin. This reminds him of the happy times they shared as a family and stops him from making the terrible decision. The memory of his son gives Craig strength and fills him with anger. He begins thinking of a way to take revenge on the man who caused their pain. Motivated by this, Craig goes to see Elise and convinces her to join him in avenging Benjamin's death. Their plan begins at the hospital where Craig works. Craig walks past the medical staff and finds an ambulance with an unlocked door. He goes inside and takes some medicine, putting it into a small bag to use later. The next day, John Kozlowski is being moved to a more secure prison. Meanwhile, Craig and Elise secretly follow the police vehicle, transporting John to carry out their plan. During the trip, the transport vehicle stops at a gas station, so one of the officers can buy coffee from a convenience store. Elise enters the store while Craig causes a distraction at the cashier to draw everyone's attention. While distracted, their plan begins to work. The transport vehicle continues its journey, and Craig and Elise follow it closely, waiting for the drug they used to take effect. Craig, being a doctor, knows the drug will make the officers feel sick. 30 minutes later, the officers stop the vehicle on the road, suffering from severe stomach pain. Craig quickly takes control of the transport vehicle with John inside, while Elise follows him in their car. As they drive toward the edge of a forest, Craig accidentally hits a deer crossing the road. The crash causes minor injuries to Craig's face, but he is otherwise fine. They find John lying on the ground, covered in blood from the accident. John is unconscious, so Craig and Elise take him to an old plantation house far from the city. They place John on a table, still handcuffed. When John wakes up, Craig tells him he will be given a special drug. This is the medicine Craig took from the ambulance earlier, and it is part of their plan to keep John awake and suffering for weeks without letting him die. The next morning, Craig and Elise clean the blood from their car. Suddenly, Elise receives a call from Detective Berger, who informs her that the police transport carrying John had an accident and that John escaped. Elise pretends to be shocked, hiding the fact that she and Craig caused the escape. The detective apologizes for the officer's negligence. That night, Craig is haunted by memories of his son Benjamin, with images of their life together playing in his mind. Feeling overwhelmed by his grief, Craig vents his anger on John by pressing a lit cigarette into his stomach, causing him extreme pain. The next morning, Craig continues the torture by burning the cigarette wounds with a soldering iron. Elise, hearing John's painful screams, starts to feel guilty about what they are doing. However, Craig tells her that their actions are nothing compared to what John did to their son Benjamin. Unsatisfied, Craig injects John with a drug that causes severe muscle cramps across his entire body, making him suffer even more. The following day, while torturing John in the basement, Craig and Elise hear footsteps above them. A man and his dog have entered the house. The man who lives nearby says the house belongs to someone named Frank Joseph. Thinking quickly, Elise, who is a real estate agent, tells the man that the house is being sold and she is there waiting for a client. Craig pretends to be the buyer, and the man believes their story and leaves. Meanwhile, Detective Berger is informed that the prisoner transport van has been found. He rushes to the accident scene to investigate. Back in the basement, Craig and Elise are torturing John again when John suddenly says he doesn't remember anything. He claims he has no memory of who he is or what happened, possibly due to a head injury from the accident. Craig and Elise are unsure whether to believe John. While Craig starts to feel guilty for torturing someone who claims to have no memory, Elise is convinced that John is lying. To test him, they decide to hurt John's leg and force him to say their son Benjamin's name. Later that night, Elise wakes up and goes to the bathroom. Meanwhile, in the basement, John, who is handcuffed, tries to free himself. After some effort, he manages to break the handcuffs on his hands and legs. John sneaks upstairs, hoping to escape, but Elise hears the bedroom door slowly opening. She feels scared and panicked. Seeing her husband Craig still asleep, Elise knows she has to act. She grabs an iron pipe, moves carefully, and knocks John unconscious. Craig wakes up to the noise, and together they drag John back to the basement. However, John wakes up again and fights back. He kicks Craig down the stairs and runs away, leaving Elise unharmed. Meanwhile, the police are searching the area and manage to catch John as he tries to escape. When the police arrest him, they confirm he is John Kozlowski, the man sentenced to 25 years in prison for killing a child. However, the situation becomes more complicated. The police reveal that another prisoner was also in the van that Craig and Elise hijacked earlier. This man, Patrick Galligan, was sentenced to 18 months for tax evasion and fraud. He is the man who accidentally ended up with Craig and Elise in the house. Craig and Elise are shocked to find Patrick hanging in the basement. They also discover a note he left behind. In the note, Patrick admits that he is a terrible person and regrets his actions. He writes that he deserves the torture they gave him, but could no longer endure the pain, so he ended his life. Craig and Elise are devastated when they realize they made a terrible mistake. The man they tortured and blamed for their son's death was not John Kozlowski, but Patrick Galligan, an innocent man in the context of their revenge. Their plan for vengeance has completely failed.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.